Hey, Jessica, should we go ahead and get started?
We are ready when you are.
Okay. We're at 6:31, so I know how much of a stickler Sue is for the numbers. All right, so we'll call this meeting to order. And as we always do, start with the Pledge of Allegiance. On three. 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I think everybody was muted on that. So roll call. I think I saw everybody except Larry. Larry, are you on? Okay, I think we're missing Larry. Hopefully he joins us. And I see Isabella's with us too. Hi, Isabella.
Hello.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. I just got a text from Larry. He's somehow stuck in a loop trying to connect, but having trouble getting in. So that's why we don't see him right now.
Can you hear me, Kevin?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to start off with communications, and Mehlville NEA, Deanna is going to start. All right.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, Mehlville School Board, everyone in attendance, and everyone watching at home.
Good evening.
My name is Dina McKelvey, and I am president of Mehlville NEA. I'm using some technology tonight, or at least I'm trying to make it appear that I'm in a classroom. But as we all know, we have moved to distance learning for the safety of our students and our staff. We could not have done this without the support of our partners in central office and the support of all of our administrators and the amazing curriculum team. They have been instrumental in helping us to make the change to becoming virtual educators. I know I speak for all of my teacher friends when I say we miss our students and we miss our classroom. We look forward to a time when we can all be together again safely. I'm so excited tonight because I have the privilege of telling you about some deserving students who will be getting scholarships from 3 different organizations: Mehlville NEA, Mehlville Retired Educators, and the Mehlville Oakville Foundation. Again, I just want to thank everyone for all the support we've been getting during this difficult time. Mehlville is a wonderful community. It's a family, really, and I feel fortunate to be a part of it. So the Mehlville NEA gives 2 $1,000 non-renewable scholarships. We call this scholarship the Aspiring Educator Scholarship. We award a student from Mehlville and we award a student from Oakville. We do give precedence to students who plan to pursue a degree in education, but it's really just more important to our membership that we are able to award to students. So if we don't have 2 candidates pursuing that path, then we still want to make sure that we give them the scholarships. The first one is, and putting on the readers, is Jana Wallinger. She's a student at Mehlville High School. She attended Berkeley Middle School and Beerbaum Elementary School. She is going to go to Mizzou and she's going to major in chemistry. And we also have Phoebe Rodenbeck, who is going to be attending Missouri State. She goes to Oakville High School, went to Oakville Middle School and Rogers Elementary School. Will go to Missouri State and will be majoring in elementary education.
I'd like to tell them both congratulations. Wonderful work.
Technology.
Yeah, by the way, Larry is trying to get on.
Hi, Dina. Thank you for including us in your presentation. I'm Karen Toretta, and I'm the scholarship chairperson for the Mehlville Retired Educators. Each year, our group offers a scholarship to a young person who is entering the field of education. We believe there is nothing more gratifying than having someone choose this profession that is so near and dear to our hearts. I am proud to announce that this year's winner is Phoebe Lynn Rodenbeck. Congratulations.
And the third organization tonight is the Mehlville Oakville School District Foundation. I do hope that Larry is able to get on because he's actually on the board of this foundation. And it is a not-for-profit 501c3 corporation. It was organized by community members in 1989 to promote and sponsor educational activities not included in the Mehlville district school budget. A committee led by Maria Cluth-Hoppe awards deserving candidates with scholarships that are funded by the foundation. The Helen Barrett Scholarship will go to Jana Wallinger, and the Dr. Robert E. and Dixie Gilbert Rogers Scholarship will go to Demi Elrod. She is a student from Oakville High School. She went to Bernard Middle School and Oakville Elementary School. She plans to attend the University of Missouri, Kansas City. She has been accepted into a very prestigious 6-year BA MD program and will major in biology. Good luck to all our recipients as they begin the next chapter in their education. And this concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for including us tonight.
Thank you. That's really cool. Okay, next up, Point Elementary, Dr. Shannon Pike.
I think I can move the screen. Jessica, are you going to control it? Oh, now I can control.
Yep, just took me a second to get to you. You should
That's
have
okay.
access.
Here we go. There we are. Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight to be with you here virtually. And I will say recognizing students is something that we always enjoy doing at Point. And tonight is no different. Usually we bring and recognize clubs or organizations, but tonight I just found it suiting that we would recognize individual students that are giving back to our community and somehow being leaders in our community right now and sharing our vision of building leaders tomorrow. Now more than ever, our students are contributing and giving back all around us and with their families. So together you'll see this. This is an example of Andy and Henry Lauer. They are, actually their family brought this project to us at Point, and they are making cards for any patient at Barnes Jewish Hospital that can not have visitors at the time. So our students are spending time with their family, celebrating together and giving back acts of kindness all over the community so that it is spread everywhere. Again, this is Layla Desavich. She also was doing that. And I just love this. If you take a minute and you just look at the thought and the kindness that goes into these cards, you will see that, again, this is another great example of how our students are sending messages just of kindness and love and caring spread all around our community right now. Our teachers are collaboratively developing planning and planning lessons right now for our students. And a piece of that planning is providing Eagle enrichment lessons for K2 and 3-5 students. These activities are family oriented and inspire students and families to work together and spend time together. Great job, Layla. This is my friend Lexi. These sweet pictures kind of melt your heart a little bit when you think about it. She made 20 masks for members of her family, her dad's employees, some neighbors, and of course her teacher. They even delivered one to her teacher, Mrs. Reek. So again, just taking a minute to recognize all the things that our kids are doing and learning from them and capitalizing on that right now. Just a really great example of that. Another student, Annabelle Brandt, is also making cards for nurses in the ICU unit, giving them inspirational messages and just sending their love their way. And this screen, I know it's filled with lots of words, but we promote positivity at Point through our positive points. And one way we did that is we took our positive points and we made them electronic this year through remote learning. And our parents can now give positive points to their kids. And so here are some examples of parents giving their children positive points at home. Elliot Schaefer and Jack Brindell, great examples of how hardworking they're being at home, and their parents are appreciative of just being a self-starter. You know, we talk all the time about the portrait of a graduate and this creative and critical thinker and persistence and perseverance and being self-aware. And our kids are doing it naturally at home with mom and dad right now. Molly and Adam Price gave food to a food pantry on Easter Sunday to those families in need. And Matthew Baker, Lucas DeRoche, Ainsley Graham, Jacob Kaiser, Bradley Norris for going above and beyond during remote learning. These are just a very few examples of the over 145 of them that I've already received just since spring break. So again, this is the recognition and this is the spirit of Point's family right now that I felt was so important that we recognize when it comes to students. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Jason Lander.
Good evening. Thanks, guys. I'm just going to wait here to take possession of the PowerPoint in just a second, and I'll get started. All right, so again, thank you guys for having us and giving us the opportunity to recognize some of our students. Always enjoy doing that and try to kind of focus in on our seniors and recognize some of their accomplishments before they graduate and head on to the next chapter of their life. So I'm going to try to cram as many of them as I can in on the next few minutes. I'm going to start off with Sydney Lam, who was recently recognized as a Missouri 100 Scholar. To be nominated as one of these scholars, a student must meet the criteria of the 10-event academic decathlon and also have exemplary attendance, citizenship, and involvement in their school and community. So Sydney, by receiving this award, was in the top 4th of the top 1% of all seniors in the state of Missouri. So a really impressive award. We're very, very proud of Sydney. She was also recognized as an outstanding student leader earlier this year by the St. Louis County Council. John and Melko is another one of our seniors who received a Missouri 100 Scholar Honorable Mention. So John also went through that same academic decathlon that Sydney did. And by receiving the Honorable Mention designation, John puts himself basically in the top 200 seniors across the state, really in the top half of the top 1%. So again, an incredibly great accomplishment that John should be very proud of. Our next senior is Yumitomi Sebenyanze. When you start reading the list of things that Tony's a part of, it's not surprising to hear that when she goes to Missouri State, she plans to major in social work. She's really committed to political science and social work, She's really committed to making a positive change in her community. And through her work in the Breaking Barriers program, Gateway to Change, and several other organizations at Mehlville, Social Justice Club and things like that. She's made a lot of impact at Mehlville High School and recently received an accomplishment from Princeton University. She was up for an award through the Princeton Prize and Race Relations Program. And while she did not receive that award, Princeton had done something for her that they have not done in the past, where they gave her a specific separate certificate of accomplishment, which really just kind of speaks to the impact that Tony's had, that they kind of felt they needed to go out of their way to recognize the work that she's done. Next is Elisabeth Farrel, who's a senior who was recently recognized as the Rotary Club Student of the Year and is also a distinguished student leader through the Missouri Association of Student Council. Elisabeth is really just one of the kindest individuals that you'll ever meet, always going out of her way to help people, and wanted to make sure we gave her a shout out this evening. And while we're really talking a lot about our seniors, I had to take an opportunity to slip in one junior and take an opportunity to brag about Matt Hansen, who received a perfect score on his ACT earlier this year. In addition to being a student at Mehlville, he also attends South Tech in their web and computer programming department, and we're excited to see what his senior year has in store for us. Also, students at South Tech are Anthony Bergmann and Trent Erlinger. They recently received the Rosemary Zander Award, which is the highest award a student at South Tech can earn. Anthony is in the auto collision repair program, and Trenton is a member of the design and entrepreneurship program. We're excited for them to continue their education and their careers next year. 3 other students were also recognized, in addition to Elisabeth, as distinguished student leaders by the Missouri Association of Student Council. Hannah Castillo, who's also a member of our Special Olympics Steering Committee that plans our track and field event. Elizabeth Kittinger, who is a MyPath student who spent part of her senior year focused on designing and building a prosthetic arm using a 3D printer. And then Maya Tunstall, who was the event chair for the Gateway Leadership event that our student council was able to host earlier this year. Our senior class has also had a lot of positive results in athletics as well. So a few of them that we wanted to shout out. Mitch Walters was part of a group of 18 seniors that led our football program to back-to-back playoff appearances. Mitch is headed to the University of Missouri next year to continue his academic and athletic career. And then Dylan Branson and Davian Bradford were members of our basketball program who won back-to-back district championships and made back-to-back quarterfinal appearances. Davian is headed to K-State next year, and Dylan is still making his decision on where he'll attend school next year in the fall. And then to wrap up, I wanted to try to give a shout out to all of our students that are involved in spring sports and spring activities that didn't get the chance to compete this spring. One of our spring sports, our soccer team, was showing our 10 senior girls there, and they were really poised to have a very successful year and very excited about it, and didn't want to leave out any of our spring sports, our baseball, track and field, volleyball, water polo, and boys golf and tennis. And then also you see the cast of Romeo and Juliet that continued to have rehearsal even after we went to a distance learning model. And once they found out that we would not be returning, continued to practice. It just kind of speaks to their commitment. We just found out that they received 3 nominations from the St. Louis High School Musical Theater Awards group. So we're excited for that. And then finally, our Culture Club, who runs our Global Coffee House, an opportunity for us to promote our diversity. And the group in the top corner is our steering committee for Special Olympics that plan our track and field event that we should have had in a couple of days. So just wanted to shout out those spring sports students as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. I'm really glad we're still doing these, the recognition. It's the reason why we're all here is for the students. So very happy that all of you down in central office and principals were able to make that happen in M&EA. So thank you. Okay, so Sue had put out a notice where people could sign up if they wanted to do patron comments, and we did not get any. So we will move past that one. I just want to bring up June 2nd is the rescheduled Board of Education election. The board candidates in the order that they will be on the ballot is Jean Preto, Stacy Kenner, Richard Vagan, Jeff Woolman, and Peggy Hassler. Okay. We are up to standing committee reports. We'll go in an order here because of having this be through Zoom. So Tori, if you want to go first, if you had any standing committee meetings.
Nothing.
Okay. Has Larry been able to join us yet?
I'm still working with him. I don't know what problems he's having, but I've sent him all the help I can.
Yeah, others are helping him now, but I guess they're still working on it. Okay, Peggy.
I do not have anything.
Okay, Lisa.
I do not have anything.
Jean.
No, nothing.
I do not have anything. Sam.
I do not.
Okay.
Kevin, could I ask a question?
Yes.
Are we just going to, since the elections are being held up, are we also going to wait to rotate committees? Or are we going to do that as we would ordinarily have done it in May?
It can be up to the board members how we want to do it. I was thinking we would wait until we got new people so that we're not kind of switching in the middle.
I would highly suggest that, knowing that I'm not going to be here for sure.
Yeah.
There would be no reason for me to start on new committees when that next person's going to come in and take those over anyway. So it'd be good for them to start fresh on that.
Okay. Well, it's probably a moot point anyway, but I just thought I'd ask if anybody had discussed it or anything.
Yeah, I hadn't really gotten that far.
Okay, no problem.
Isabella, did you have anything you wanted to bring up?
No, I feel like you guys are really covering it. I just miss school. That's all I have to say.
Oh, poor thing.
I understand. Okay, and I don't think Ariam is with us on the call. So next, consent agenda. Does anyone have anything in the consent agenda that they want to be pulled? Okay. Could I get a motion to approve action items by consent?
I'd like to make a motion to approve action items by consent, A, B, and C.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Next up is the Point Board Data Report. Dr. Pike, floor is yours.
Shannon, are you off mute?
Hi, Larry.
Did we lose Shannon?
Shannon, I'm gonna take the control back here.
Okay. You want to switch to MHS?
Here I am.
Oh, good.
Once I had control, I couldn't control the bottom piece. So can you see me too? Okay, there we go.
I'm gonna give you back control, Shannon. You can just
Okay.
use your arrow keys to advance.
Okay, now we're ready. Hi, everyone. Now we'll start. Here we go. I was just texting you that. So sorry about that, everybody.
No problem.
All right. Okay, here we go. Let me see. There we are. So you will notice that this evening, my presentation is broken into two sections, prior to spring break and since spring break. I felt that it was suiting just to break it into those two portions because well, here we are. There is a difference between our school year now and the beginning of spring break. At the beginning of every year, we start down one road, one path, and you will see right here, our school improvement goals are just like every year. We spend a lot of time as a team in our building having goals, reviewing attendance, data, and for so long, this is what we believe as our sense of normalcy. This is what we do each and every day at Point. Our breakdown of enrollment, ELL percentages, free and reduced lunch, IEP percentages are very similar to what they have been over the last several years. So you can see that those trends are very similar. Also, our breakdown in enrollment for per grade level is very similar as well. There are not much differences. This means for me, and what this tells me, that we are identifying, we spend a lot of time in grade level teams talking, having good conversations, and identifying kids that need additional support and working with those individual students on a daily basis. So our historical attendance, we range between 94 and 96% respectively over the last several years. And we do this by keeping in touch with our families and being very diligent and making sure that we know where every single kid is at every single minute. So my office staff is phenomenal on doing that. And additionally, the classroom teachers, they pay attention to where our kids are and what they're doing. Our MAP scores. This is a point of pride for us. Our teachers, from the time our kids walk in the building, we are paying attention. I mean, we are working with individual kids to know where they are. We're giving them pre-assessments, but most importantly, we're monitoring that. And we have a strong foundation of tier 1 teaching and learning that happens on a day-to-day basis: reading, writing, math, social, emotional learning, and then providing interventions for kids that they may need throughout the process. Here are 3rd grade math scores, and you can see that over the years, what we are doing is widening that gap between point and the state. And this is 4th grade and 5th grade. And our IEP scores for 3rd, 4th, and 5th point compared to the state average. EL and our free and reduced lunch. The one area that we continue to work on is our 5th grade ELA IEP student. That was a slight between point and the state average. The state average was a tiny bit higher. And that is an area that we know and that we pay attention to and that we identify and work on. This is our iReady score. Math, this is our first year, fall and winter benchmark. You can see the growth there of our students. We didn't take the spring one, but this is our fall and our winter benchmark. So again, here gives you an idea of the growth that our students are having throughout the school year for math. And our reading levels. We spend every 6 weeks looking at reading levels. And the one thing we talk about as a team is, again, foundation. Kids come to us learning letters, learning sounds. And what we have to understand is there is a growth and a continuum of that. But it is okay to go slow. It is okay to give kids time and a foundation so that they can have a stronger vocabulary and stronger comprehension to read any form of text as they get older. So we do pay attention to that, and it is okay to go slow. We've given ourselves permission to do that. So here's where we get to the fork in the road. Here's where, as a staff, we have made a choice. We've made lots of them that you are about to see make a difference every day in the lives of kids. We are not living in normal times, and the data presented to you just a minute ago is just a snapshot of what we do every day at Point and in all of our schools. We know that kids are able to learn. They need a safe and caring environment. Actually, that's part of our mission. And this is a huge part of what we live by. We continue to make choices right now that are supporting kids and families, and they continue to feel loved and safe and cared about, even outside of what Dr. Gaines likes to say, the brick and mortar of our building. And that is what we always do, regardless of whether they're sitting in our classrooms or sitting on their couches or sitting in their beds learning, we are there for them. I will tell you, here are our statistics in Seesaw, and this is not even the highest one. This is just one that I was able to pull because I had to give it to you. But on any given day, our students and our teachers are connected with our families. And the district purchased Seesaw. It is an interactive, it's not always live, but our kids are able to bring information and highlight what they're doing each and every day. And I can go in and I can see what the kids are doing, and I see videos, I see pictures, I see smiles, I see reading, I see writing, I see math, but most importantly, I see connection. And I see all of that happening on a daily basis, multiple times a day. Staying engaged. We know that over the top, we have to right now do that because we want them to love school. Kids have to love school, to want to come to school, to be engaged with us, because eventually they're going to return to school. So that piece of it has to be there. 18 teachers right now at Point have Google Meet set up, and in total, they have to put on a spreadsheet for me and tell me kind of like what their plans are. 46 of them are planned until the end of the year. These meets are showing and sharing what they're doing at home. They have the opportunity to connect remotely with their teachers and friends. We believe in a slow and steady approach. There's no reason to go any other way because we want the ability to feel confident and comfortable that everyone is taking the risk and giving ourselves permission to fail forward. This is all new for everybody, but it is okay because we are all learning together. Our kids are learning, our parents are learning, our staffs are learning, I'm learning, and we have given ourselves that permission. In upper elementary students, we are utilizing Google Classroom to organize assignments and post assignments to our kids. Our Facebook community hub, hopefully you've checked it out. I hope you do. But we are encouraging parents to like that. We're encouraging them to like the district's page because we want them to be engaged with us. We are creating opportunities for learning. Check this out. This is happening live online for our kids all day, every day, where they can go on and be creative and critical thinkers right there in front of us, even if they can't be in our schools, but they can be in their family rooms. And, you know, I was joking with my daughters because of course I was doing this presentation with them. And I said, this is a great example of how third grade students are exploring fractions right now. I said, what better way to do that than cooking? And I said, well, maybe I can learn how to cook a grilled cheese. And I know my staff is laughing at home right now because they know I don't really know how to cook. But learning happens all around us. And right now we have the opportunity to share their lives with our kids, their passions, their interests, and we have been given a unique opportunity to let them shine in their element. And we are making the choice as a staff to embrace that. I love this. And it is just the neatest thing. That little boy is sharing with you how excited he was to get a letter in the mail. And I will tell you, we think about relationships that teachers and kids have together, but we don't really understand the cycle that sometimes happens. You know, we go in the beginning of the year and we meet kids. Throughout the year, it's kind of like average every day. We have parties, we have lunch, we have recess, we have meet and greets, we have all of those things. Parents come for lunch. But what we take for granted sometimes and we don't understand is the power of what leads up to us saying goodbye to one class and welcoming another. And that sometimes is what we are figuring out right now and holding on to with our connections with our kids. And when you see words like I love and I care about and I want to be with, that means that when we have those connections in the spring and the fall and next winter, that's what helps kids learn. That's what creates that safe and caring environment for them. As a staff, we've also made a choice to creatively connect regularly and collaborate with each other. We're being reflective and open and honest and risk-taking and giving ourselves permission to fail and most importantly, listen to one another and support one another. You know, there's so much happening around us right now, but the one thing I can tell you is the dedication that happens from parents to kids to staff that creates a learning environment that moves forward. And that is what we're doing. We've created common schedules to help parents feel successful in a time of uncertainty. And of course, we talked about the positive points, but again, just a way to recognize that. Here's our communication. Here's how we are supporting each other right now. These are all the ways that we are doing that. Our back to school plan, oh, we have a plan. It's not even finished, but we definitely have a plan and we will continue to support our kids all day, every day. And the details of the plan, they're unknown, but they keep forming over and over and over again. We keep working together, talking, working on it. It just keeps developing over time. And I will conclude with this by saying that while we yearn for a return to normalcy, we may find that our fork in the road has a few more forks in the future. The choices we make for our students today during these unprecedented times will surely shape the future of education and other fields. And I could not see myself anywhere else but serving here in the Mehlville community with the Point staff and for the Point kids. That's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? There's just something I wanted to bring up, and you already know these numbers, but for anybody watching us, as this little thing in my screen says live on YouTube, Point has a ton to be really proud of from 2018 to 2019. Looking at the MAP scores, grade 3 English went up 19%, and 18 to 19 was that first year in a long time where the scores are direct to each other because it was the same test, so we can compare them directly. And that put third grade English in the top 10% of the state. Third grade math went up 31%, top 8% in the state. And grade 5 math went up 30%, top 5% in the state. So, I mean, Point did really well in a lot of places, but those are really pretty notable when you're talking top 5, top 8, top 10. So great job, all the teachers, what they're doing there. A lot to be proud of. And I'm sure they're going to do great as you guys are going through this situation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent work, Dr. Pike. I was really impressed by that presentation, and I was really happy to see that you were also asking the kids to share their feelings if they cared to. I think this is going to be really important moving forward. There's going to be a lot of, I think, kids with canned up feelings and things that we're going to have to really be astute to. So thank you so much. That was great. And you guys are doing a fabulous job. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Pike.
Thank you.
We have Larry. Are you there, Larry?
I'm here.
All right, there you are. Great. So Larry is able to finally join the meeting. All right. Mehlville High School data report. Jason.
All right, as I get started this evening, wanted to just take a second to show you our vision and mission statement at Mehlville, and then really that goal of ensuring high levels of learning for all, drives everything that we do, and as far as the decisions that we make and looking at how those decisions are going to impact and challenge our students, our staff, ourselves, and how it's going to lead to just continuous growth at Mehlville. To start off from there, just sharing some of our school improvement goals. If you look at those first three goals, those are items that are on there every year, things that we strive for continued growth in those areas. And to me, those really speak to individualized intervention and support for our students, whether that's support in their ACT prep or in individual programming that's going to impact their attendance and ultimately their academic performance. It just gets to the heart of us knowing our kids and knowing the best way to support them in each one of their individual situations. Next, the fourth bullet point talks about the idea of creating just as collaborative an environment as we can between our general education staff, our special education staff, our EL teachers. I wanted to give a shout out to Andy Nieders, who's our special school district area coordinator, for the work that he's done regarding to our co-teaching models that we're using in our building and trying to develop the most effective and collaborative teams that we can. And that's something that we're going to continue to focus on moving forward. The use and implementation of the individual career and academic plan is something I'll talk about a little bit later. And then another new goal for us this year is just really trying to be intentional with strengthening our community involvement and community support, whether that was inviting in more people to our career fair this year or being involved in the job fair that was going to be hosted at Mehlville High School this spring. I'm sure we'll get on the books for next year, or have an opportunity to have guest speakers into the classroom and talk about real world connections with the content that our students are learning. Earlier this year, we had the opportunity for two of our district Hall of Famers, Steve O'Laughlin and Keon Raymond, to speak with our students in their classrooms, and continuing to find those opportunities as often as we can. So we start to look at our data. We start by just looking at our overall enrollment, which you can see that green line there represents redistricting and that kind of steady decline that we've seen. And we knew that was coming as part of the redistricting model. That'll continue into next year before we start to see some slight growth and increase as kind of that leveling out takes place. Even though our enrollment overall has declined, the percentage of students from that total enrollment representing our free and reduced population or our students with IEPs, our English learners, that percentage has stayed pretty similar, just showing that they're representing a larger overall percentage of our student body. One of the unique things about our demographics is our mobility rate, which is just under 17%. And that's kind of where it's been over the last several years. We've had 132 transfers out of Mehlville and 117 new students enrolling this year. And out of that number, we've had about 11% of that 117 that have already transferred back out, and 15% that have an IEP. So it's a unique piece of our demographics and kind of a unique challenge that we face each year. We talked on the last screen briefly about our EL population, and that again is something that's evolved over the last several years, and we've seen an increase in the diversity and a larger percentage of Arabic, Vietnamese, and Kurdish speaking students are some of our largest populations, but it's a great opportunity to promote our diversity, something that we're very proud of, and also just again provide some unique challenges and making sure that we're doing the best job we can to meet each one of those students' needs. Our attendance data is something that we're always reviewing weekly, really, as an administrative and counseling team, and comparing our 90-90 numbers from last year to this year. You know, we're happy to see some positive movement in the above 90% category, but what we're most excited about is the decrease in students that were below 80 or between 80 and 84. Each one of those groups saw about 25, 26 students move out of those respective groups and into that 85% or above. So moving, you know, in the right direction, which we know is going to pay dividends in the long run for their academic performance. Another piece of data that we review is our ACT data. This is our senior class cohort data for the class of 2020. Right now, that composite is sitting at a 19.91. We actually just got our February test data back. We had 9 students that took, 9 seniors, I should say, that took that ACT in February, and that their scores all improved, which I think speaks to the chart in the lower right corner of the screen, showing that the more attempts a student has on that test, the better that they traditionally do. That average for a student that takes it 3 times, that composite average for our seniors is a 24, up, you know, basically 4 points from that 19. So our goals moving forward in developing that assessment plan are to increase that exposure to the test. Working with Dr. Smith and the curriculum team, we're excited to offer the Aspire test next year to our 10th graders to give them a little bit more of a baseline. When we look at our current junior class right now, it's 338 kids, and there are 44 of them that have taken the test so far. So, and that average with those 44 kids is 23.9. So they're off to a great start, but having the opportunity over the next several years to increase that exposure is great. Also increasing the support through our TAP program and our TAP ACT prep, specifically in English and reading and math, is something that we think is going to be helpful for our kids, as well as just the new testing format, which allows students to take individual sections as a retake. I think that'll motivate some students to just take that one individual subtest. So that's something that we're going to be promoting, making sure our kids are aware of that in the fall. Here, when you look at our end of course exams or state assessments, it's kind of unique looking at this data just because the biology test was new in 2018 and did not have any data for the 18 or 19 test. And then American government in 2018, we had really positive results, which was the first year of testing with our new course sequence, with that class being offered to juniors. But then in 2019, it was a new test and no data from last year. So our area of focus over the last 2 years has really been on Algebra 1 and English 2. We were happy to see some positive growth in our percentage of students that were scoring advanced or proficient in those 2 tests. And that credit goes to our English department and our math department and kind of the work that they've done and things that they've implemented, like our Algebra 1 group and our math department chairs that have really spearheaded some calculator integration and some teacher support around that. So then we're kind of excited for some continued growth there over the next several years. The next slide here just kind of shows a lot of the different programs that we offer at Mehlville. It's something that we're very proud of, having so many options for our kids. And really our goal is to make sure that they're aware of those options and informed to make the best decision for them as they're moving through their high school experience. Early college was a new program for us and had a lot of opportunity to talk with the 3 students that participated in that this year. We have 7 students that have expressed interest for next year and have been working on the application and working with Ms. Merritt, their counselor, to complete that in the next coming weeks. And 15 MyPath students this year doing a lot of cool things in regards to their projects. Some focused on sustainability, arts, English language education, the medical field and engineering field. We actually have a MyPath Google Meet for students tomorrow for underclassmen that are interested in learning more about the program. We want to still try to promote that with our kids, even though we're not in the building to do it in our normal way. A couple of our other new programs this year that focused on that real world application, our aerospace engineering, which was a new course this year. They had a lot of great partnerships going with Boeing and had a field trip planned this spring to the Challenger Learning Center. Know that they're going to get that rescheduled for next year. You see some pictures there of our amped algebra students and had the opportunity to apply their algebra learning to a business model. See some pictures of shirts that they made for different Mehlville events. And then the bottom 2 pictures show our geometry and construction students who would do a much better job of explaining how much they enjoyed that program and the learning that they did in applying the geometry to some everyday things. And there's a picture of them working with Dr. Clark and the shed that's in construction right now. And our new GIC group will pick that up next year and be able to finish that and deliver it over to Mosaic. Last two things that I wanted to share, I spoke earlier about our goal of increasing the amount of students that just had awareness and utilized their individual career and academic plan. We had 80% of our students that utilized that plan through the SCORE software, which is just really a new software that we've been using the last several years to kind of really streamline our college acceptance and career awareness for our students. We had 71% of our kids who utilized the U Science career profile, who through different aptitude and different activities kind of get a better idea of what careers are out there and they might be interested in, and then they can use that information to help tailor their 4-year plan and their schedule over the course of their time at Mehlville, which again is just something that we want to make sure that our kids and our families are informed of all the choice that we have and really make the best decision to help prepare them for their next chapter after they graduate, after they leave Mehlville High School. And something else that was new to the high school level this year was the Panorama Social Emotional Learning Survey. We were happy to have 89% participation in the fall. You can see some of our strengths and some of the areas of focus that led us to talk about. So it was good conversation, and we're excited to utilize that with both the pre-test and post-test next year. So again, that's my presentation. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to take those now.
Anyone have questions? I feel like I've got to say something since I said something in the last one, but you guys are in that same boat. You went through so much good stuff there that is really helping kids out. And, it's when you hit the map portions, those graphs are so small, it's kind of hard to see that one of the things you got there is Algebra 2 was up 28% in 1 year, and you're in the top 15% of all Missouri high schools. So it's, just 1 point because there was so much stuff that it was so good in that presentation, but it's just kind of symbolic of what's going on where guys are really making strides in a lot of areas. So thanks a lot for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Kevin. I wanted to mention those Algebra 2 scores and how astounding that is. And I think you guys are just doing a fabulous job over there. I finally got to have some personal connection to Mehlville High School this year on a student level. I mean, with a student there in the family. And I am continually impressed by what Mehlville's doing over there. And I want to thank you for all you do and keep up the good work.
No, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Next up is policy revisions.
Kevin, I'd like to pull GCD.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll is that the only one? If not, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the others.
Okay.
I'll second.
Oh, I think I have to read them out, Sam. I'll make a motion to approve policies FC, GCD-1, GC1, GD1, GBCB, and GBCBB as presented.
That included the one that Sam wanted to pull. Sam
Oh, I'm
wanted to
sorry.
pull
Which one did she want pulled?
the second one.
GCD.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, then let me do it over again.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve policies FC, GC1, GD1, I'm sorry, GCI, GDI, GBCB, and GBCBB. Sue, I'm very sorry. As presented.
You still seconding, Sam?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, so looking at GCD, I go back to, it's about midway through. It's actually on page 6. And number 1 on there talks about how the Board of Education shall not contract with or employ to any position, any board member, any immediate relative of a board member or immediate relative of an administrative official of the district. So I'm going to try to be as tactful as I can about this, but we're going to have people running for the board that may have a spouse in the district. And we're immediately, by that happening, because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, state says it can happen. But we have a policy that says that we're not going to renew the teacher. So if we have somebody running for the board and they get elected to the board, are we then going to term the spouse that may be a teacher in our district? Because we're violating our own policy. So I can't see myself being able to, in good conscience, vote for this because it's contradicting what we're actually going to be doing.
I thought that we had discussed this once before, and I thought the fact that someone is already employed doesn't put them under this.
But what if they're not tenure?
Well, depends what the type of situation is. I'm not familiar. Which policy is it that says we have to terminate them?
There is no policy that says we're going to terminate them, but we renew our teachers every year. So if somebody is elected to the board and they have a spouse in the district, are we then, because the policy does state that we are not going to, the Board of Education shall not contract with or employ to any position, any board member, immediate relative of a board member, or immediate relative of an administrative official of the district. So how do we renew that teacher if we have a board member get elected that has a spouse in our district without violating our own policy?
Yeah,
Did
we have a
MSBA
conundrum here. I can
when
see
this
that.
was reviewed?
At the very least, it's not clear. It does read the way, I think it reads the way you're saying, Sam.
And I'm open to if somebody else interprets it a different way, but this is the way, just reading what it's saying is that we're not going to contract if you're a board member in our district now. So if you have a spouse or a relative, a very close relative, we're not going to.
I think the mitigating circumstances were they already under contract, and it's a renewal versus a new. I think we need to refer this back to Kelly Hopkins, have her talk about it, look at it.
I would definitely want some clarification on the wording, because as it sits right now, I can't in good faith vote for this.
I agree.
Very-
It's just, it's too muddy right now to make a clear distinction of whether or not it would be doable.
Right.
Yep.
You know, it's twofold. You don't want to see a good board member, somebody who has the potential to be a really good board member, not run, but you also don't want to
You don't want to jeopardize
not
somebody's
renew
career.
a teacher or some, anything like that as well. So
Right.
I want
And
to
then
make sure
even-
we're being fair.
Would it even be legal to do something like that from a state aspect? I'm not even sure.
Right. And what's the point of having a policy that goes against the state law?
Well, and the catch is that we do rehire them every year up
Yes.
until tenure, so.
It's okay, Larry, calm down. It's just a conversation.
Yeah, we just, the fact that we do rehire them every year up until they're tenured is the
Right.
conundrum here. So we may have to find some way to, or I guess, I don't know, we just need clarification on it to figure out what we actually can do.
Right.
Like you said, you hate to lose somebody who's, eager and willing to be on the board, but you just, and well qualified, but you hate at the same time to jeopardize anybody's livelihood.
Right.
So for
And that's the way this policy reads, and that's not doing to me, that's a disservice, no matter to somebody who's willing to volunteer the next 3 years of their life, or somebody that this is their livelihood. And
Mhm.
would think that all 7 of us have always tried to follow our policies. And by adopting this policy, we can't, I mean, we need to know what the ramifications are if that happens.
Yeah, the way I see it is that I think we need to be in alignment with the state, because if there's a conflict, then that's setting us up for potential legal problems, right?
Okay, so can somebody define this to me? This, it says this does not preclude promotion of a current employee whose spouse is also employed by the district, so that wouldn't even, never mind. That wouldn't apply.
No, but if we had 2 teachers and one of them got promoted, what that says is that's okay.
Yeah.
That there wouldn't be a problem there.
Yeah, I think you're right, Sam. We gotta yank this out and get some clarification on it
I appreciate it.
and go from there.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll table this one.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is messenger bids.
That would be me, the woman behind the curtain.
Yes.
So we have placed a bid for the messenger in March, and we received the following responses. Missourian Publisher, our current printer, remains our lowest bid. We have been happy with their service. They're very speedy in their turnaround time. So I would like to recommend that the board approve Missourian Publishing as our Mehlville Messenger printer and mail prep provider for the next fiscal year. I'm happy to.
I was gonna make a motion, but does anybody have any questions before I do
Well,
that?
no, I have one comment, and that's like, boy, there's a sizable difference between some of these. And the one question I had was, why are they only at $10 per plate? Is that because they're already made up?
Those are for changes after they send us a proof. I'm not sure why they set their price that low, but that would only be if we had a change to a proof. And those are very rare.
Yeah, but there's a huge disparity there between them and the other companies. So, well, that's fine. If that's cool with them, it's cool with me.
All
This
right,
is
well, I'll make a motion to approve the lowest qualified bid submitted by Missourian Publishing Company in the amount of $20,164.64 for the printing and mail handling of 4 issues of the Mehlville Messenger.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is board meeting dates.
Okay, I just want to put my 2 cents in, Kevin, and I'll shut up. I just hope they, for the most part, stay on Thursdays. That's my only comment.
Did anyone have a conflict other than me on the 1 November date?
The only possible one I have is I have a daughter who's due sometime mid to late July, but that's just me. That has nothing to do with the board.
That's hard to plan around.
It's hard to make plans right now, period.
No offense,
You're
but she's
right.
higher priority.
But that baby will come, no matter what.
Yep. Were there any others? So it sounds like the only one we have to worry about was November 19th. I'm not sure about everyone else, but I was open every day that week before the 19th, and I'm free the week before. So just from the 19th through Thanksgiving, I'm out. Chris, do you want to weigh in on what works for you?
I'm open as of now.
Okay.
But I mean, pretty wide open. The 10th may be an issue, but
Okay.
the 12th would be fine if we wanted to stick on Thursday.
What do you guys think? Would you want to go for the 12th on that Thursday, 1 week before, or
But
maybe
what-
the 17th, 2 days before?
What was the date of the the previous meeting before that one, Dr. Gaines?
We had done it on a Tuesday. I think we did it actually on the Tuesday of,
No, I mean, you're talking about November 12th as a possibility for next year, right? Or this
Correct.
fall? Okay.
Yeah.
What
So-
was the meeting date prior to that? That in October, when did we meet? When will we meet in October is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
the 15th. Wait, have I got that right?
Yeah, 15th.
The 15th, so.
Oh, so quite a while before. Okay.
I say move it to the 12th.
That's fine. Move it to the 12th. Yeah.
Move it to the 12th.
Sure,
Okay.
move it to the 12th.
Can I get a motion to accept the dates that Dr. Gaines had sent us, except November 19th, moving to November 12th?
So moved.
You get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Great. That was easy. Budget development. Does anyone see what kind of color tie Marshall is wearing?
No, I don't even see Marshall. Where is he? Where are you, Marshall?
I'm here, but I'm trying to figure out how to get my my picture up.
Well, that's
Normally
okay. Just tell us what color tie you've got on.
Normally there's a video button, but there's no video button now. So I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, because of this slide being up.
Well, normally you can do that, but there I am. Okay.
All right.
It's red.
Oh.
Oof.
Oh.
That was
But,
expected.
you know, you do what you can.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll start with the first slide. This is really looking at forecast here of this current fiscal year 2020, and just seeing where we're at today compared to the February forecast when we did our February adjustments. So bottom line is from February, if you look at the operating gain, sort of in that lower right corner of the schedule there, the operating gain of $4,242,000. That's up $1.7 million from the February forecast. So what changed? Bottom line is operating revenue went up about $250,000 because right after the February board meeting, the state increased funding to the formula, and that's not changed yet. And that's despite, if you compare total revenues, our actual total revenue for this year is going to be down around 1.1 million, but most of that is due to activity funds. It's student activities, it's athletics, it's food service, things that don't really affect the operating funds and the cash reserve. So revenue on the operating funds actually goes up a little bit, and the expenses go down about 1.5 million on the operating funds for things like you've got 45 less days of school. So you have less homeless transportation expenses. You've got less utilities. You've got less gas because the buses aren't running. We've reduced our professional development. You've got less classified salaries. Even though we pay everybody, we don't need to hire the seasonal groundskeepers to cut the grass because we've got excess capacity with existing staff. We don't have classified summer school staff because it's virtual classes. So you don't really need a nurse or a secretary. So there's other savings like that we incur. So bottom line is that pushes our operating gain up to $4.2 million. We'll go to the next slide. And so then the impact on cash reserve percentage is that you see in the highlighted number of 33.9%, And back in February, we're projecting 31.7%. So that is an increase. That's positive. And then we go to the next slide. So now, how is the budget for fiscal year 21 shaping up? So, bottom line is, I guess I could say you're going to see where our cash reserve is going to be about 8% higher at the end of fiscal year 21 than what it was in fiscal year 2015. So it's all how you present things. So if I really focus on that, everybody might smile. But if we get into the numbers, it's not quite that happy because we do have a loss. So when we look at this slide and we look at the operating gain or loss, in this case, it's a loss. So our operating loss is $3,675,000. So roughly $3.7 million operating loss, which compares to back in March when we were initially putting the budget together. We had really, it was coming together with about an $800,000 operating loss. So it's ballooned up to 3.7 million. So what changed? Well, local taxes, we've reduced the estimate of that by 1.8 million, and we've reduced sales tax. We'll get into that here shortly. So between those two alone, that was a $3 million change that resulted in this current operating loss of $3.7 million. We'll go to the next slide. So you'll see the highlighted cash reserve. So, I think it is significant though that despite that loss, we're looking at a cash reserve percentage at the end of the fiscal year 21 of 29.3%. So it's not happy news that we, for the moment, have an operating loss that we're looking at in the budget. But it sure is nice to know that after that, we still have a 29.3% cash reserve. We'll go to the next slide. Revenue for fiscal year 21, you can see on the left side that we're looking at $120 million, which is a decrease of 2.9% or $3.6 million. We'll go to the next slide. We'll look at the key factors behind that decrease. Number one is the local tax that we talked about that's decreasing almost $1.8 million since mid-March because of the economy and COVID-19 impact. We're in different times now. The economy is not doing as well. When you look at the local tax percentage of collections versus what's billed, historically, going back to like 2004, which I didn't have readily available before, and going back further than that, but readily available going back to 2004, it's a pretty tight percentage of collection. So for all the tax bills that go out for real estate tax and personal property tax, we pretty much year in, year out, we collect 96.8% to 97.1% every year. It's very consistent, except for, I'm thinking, okay, we're in sort of unprecedented times. What can I relate this to? Well, the only thing that I can relate to is 2009 recession. I looked at that year, and in that particular year, we had a 94.7% collection rate. So when you apply 94.7% collection instead of the traditional collection percentage, it brings the revenue down about $1.8 million. Now, there's no guarantee of what that collection is going to be. It could be lower, it could be higher, but I think logically speaking, to me, that's my best educated guess, and I think it would be prudent to at least budget that percentage. When we look at sales tax, I decreased that by $1,250,000 from what I had done on mid-March. When I look at fiscal year 20, the word from my DESI contacts are they don't really know what's going to be withheld yet. They'll be figuring that out, but they suggested to go back to the prior year level of 1,005. We had forecast 1,049 per WADA. So you back that down to 1,005 per WADA. And then there's no guidance yet on what we're going to get next year. So, you know, when I see 90% declines in air travel and businesses folding and other things going on, this isn't coming back tomorrow. So I think just an educated guess, 7% reduction is what I put onto the number, which gives it a $935 rate. That's an educated guess. It could be down 20%, it could be down 2%. We'll wait until we get further guidance, more precise, better data from the state to keep refining this number. That's my best educated guess for right now, and it's a guess. And then we already talked about in March, the basic formula already decreasing primarily just due to the lower WADA. So that was already a decrease that we already knew about. So I have, as of March, the assumption was to use the state adequacy target of $6,375 per WADA. I haven't reduced that yet. At this point, I'm just holding that. And I think the best thing to do is just wait and see what the state is going to say. They're in the midst of going back and legislating and finalizing the budget. We'll see what happens, what they say coming out of that. And then based on what they say, there may be further adjustment based on their guidance on that. And I think the final thing is through, you know, all of these projections, what kind of aid may we possibly receive from the federal government or the state government, and how much will that be? So we need to keep an eye on that. Next slide. And just an interesting note in looking at the data historically on the revenues, I thought it was just an interesting side note that when we look at the 10-year trend for revenue growth from fiscal year 11 through fiscal year 20 forecast, the average per year growth that the district realizes, if you exclude the abnormalities of Prop R, which is a one-shot injection, but it's without, you know, special injections of revenue, just your normal formula and equations produce a 1.29% average per year growth. The per year inflation average is 1.79%. So the differential, when you apply that to the district budget, means that over time, your inflation outpaces your revenue by $596,000 per year. So, you know, as we've been very successful to be able to increase the cash reserve over time, I think it's a really important number, and this is an important concept that we constantly harp on to never lose sight of, because the long term is that the formulas just don't keep up. So I think that's interesting to note. Next slide. And this is just a quick shot of the detailed revenues, and it's really just showing the local, county, and state. It's not the full detail of all the revenues, but these components make up 93% of our total revenue. So it's just there for your comparison. The full financial statement is there on your eBoards page. So I just had that for reference. So go to the next slide. So now we look on the expenditure side of fiscal year 21, and we see where expenses of $124,895,000 are up 0.9% or $1 million. There's a lot of components there to look at. So first, salaries and benefits component, it's up $2.9 million or 3.3%. Then we look at operating expenses. The operating expenses for purchase services and supplies combined are up $1.5 million or 9%, but that's really misleading because we're comparing that to an abnormal COVID shortened school year of fiscal year 20. And when you really dig in deeper to say, well, what's this $1.5 million increase? Why are we increasing expenses by 9%? when you really look at it, $950,000 are due to, once again, the student activity funds, the athletic funds, and the food service. So those are not at all even impacting to your operating fund. The true operating fund increase is really up about $650,000 or 3%, which is in the inflation ballpark. So that's a very reasonable number. And then you look at the capital piece, it's down $2.3 million, but a lot of that is due to projects that were moved into fiscal year 20 for the sake of getting an early start on the summer projects. And then the debt is what it is. It's based on the pay schedules. It's down about $1 million, and it's just strictly based on the pay schedules. Next slide. And these are just key assumptions. If you want to dig in deeper, those are on your e-boards. They give you finer details of expense assumptions that went into those numbers. Let's go to the next slide. Then we get into, this is the 5-year capital plan, and just a quick snapshot on the current year, fiscal year 20. And down in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see $4.7 million of all the capital projects. And like I said, that number has increased because we moved $1.3 million from fiscal year 21 into this fiscal year for early summer projects, as well as adding another $300,000 capital item. So that's the detail of fiscal year 20. I'll go to the next slide. Fiscal year 21 is the $2.3 million of specific capital projects. And that's, you know, at your leisure, going into the details in your eBoards files. Go to the next slide. This is a snapshot of our debt picture. Basically, we've talked about paying off the debt, and this is just a nice picture of seeing where coming into fiscal year 21, we have 4 COPs that are being, 4 COPs of debt to be paid off. And you'll see that in fiscal year 21, 3 of those have an ending balance of 0 by the end of the year. So we're going to pay off 3 of those 4. And then the final COP will be paid off in April of 2022. And that's consistent with what we've talked about. So next slide. The next few slides are going to be replacement schedules. And this one is the most commonly known that we've talked about ever since I've gotten into the district. You'll see about midway through in the 2020 to 21 column, it says number 1. You'll see the number of buses bought is 5. It just means that for fiscal year 21, our target to buy for buses to buy next year is 5. And it's sort of in the middle of the schedule there. You'll see 5, 5, 5, and then you can see some 4s. And then near the bottom, 5, 6, 6, 6. It just shows what's targeted to be bought every year. And then the next column over, number of buses greater than 16 years old. It just shows that we just need to continue down the road of sticking with the plan, buying the buses that are targeted. It shows you how many buses we have that are greater than 16. And we've been doing this for several years. You'll see that there's 11 buses that will bubble out in the year 2025, 26. And that's because until you go through a 16-year cycle of sticking to the plan, you're going to have certain years bubble up problems. And the only way to smooth this out is to stick with the plan for 16 years. And then you will have a pure, smooth plan of buying 5 buses every year, and you won't have the problems. But we'll have bubbled up problems periodically until we stick with this for 16 years. But we're getting there, and we've come a long way over the earlier years. Next slide. These are just notes that help explain part of the bus replacement schedule that you can look at further. So next slide. So we have, just so that people know, we have our people looking at their operations and planning ahead and seeing what's coming and figuring out how to plan in ways so that we don't get spikes to the budget. This is our non-bus fleet vehicle replacement schedule. You'll see year by year grand totals. It's a little expensive in fiscal year 22, but it pretty much goes along fairly consistently, other than fiscal year 22, in a fashion that doesn't really put spikes to the budget. And it shows that Dan Gilman and Mike Gegg are prudently planning what's coming and planning in a way that doesn't spike our budget. We'll go to the next slide. Then we've got the same thing going on with food service. Katie's looking at all of her kitchens and her equipment and her requirements. And, relatively speaking, you don't see a $300,000 spike in any one of those years. She's putting thought and planning and trying to get things planned in ways where we don't suffer large spikes to the budget. A lot of planning going on with that. We'll go to the next slide. Same thing with IT, but these numbers are a lot bigger. You'll notice, they're pretty much around $1.5 million each year. And this is extremely important for Paul to put in the planning on the IT equipment. He's really done a great job of thinking out what the needs are and putting things together in ways that, what we don't want is all of a sudden we have to go out and buy $5 million of equipment and then nothing the next 2 or 3 years and then $5 million. He's really done a great job to try to spread this out and smooth it out to where we don't get spikes in the budget. So it's really helpful. So that's pretty much all I've got. We'll go to the last slide. And basically just the final comments are that, this is where we're at today. Some of my projections are educated guesses. We really need to look to see what the state legislation is going to do with the budget. We'll know more mid to late May. And I'm sure that we'll be making some adjustments to this fiscal year 21 budget. And I'm pretty sure that as we go through the summer and get into the fall and see what the economy is doing and what that's doing to the state budget and what adjustments they may have to make next fall, we'll continue to have to revise this. But I think the best thing that we can do is make our projections based on the information we have today, and then just understand what potential is out there and adjust as we get better information. So that's where I'm at today, and that's what I've got.
Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you.
Anyone have questions for Marshall?
I had one question. If the legislature has to come back in special session in June to pass the budget, we're still required to pass our budget by the end of June. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's my understanding.
Okay. So wait, I think your approach is sound, because knowing how you've handled the budget, every time we know that there's an adjustment that's made in the budget, whether it's a withhold or whether it's a change in priority, I'm sure you'll reflect it as fast as you can.
Yep, definitely.
Hey, Marshall, if I missed this, I apologize, but is there any consideration for a potential increase in students coming from private schools with what's happening with the economy?
Right now, I did not factor that in, but it's certainly on my mind. I'm hesitant just because there's so many other negative budget adjustment potentials. I think until we get more precise information, that'll be part of the refinement as we get better data. But you're definitely, it's definitely a solid point to be considering. And that it would be nice to have a boost in the in the attendance.
Yeah, the reasons may not be that good, but yeah.
Right.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you. Thank you, Marshall.
Okay, next up is patron comments, and no one signed up for these either, so we will move past that one and move to authorization for closed session.
I'll make a motion to enter a closed session meeting for the purpose of reading of minutes in previous meetings and corrections and approval of the same and other items under Missouri Revised Statute 610.021 subsections 1 through 21 and 610.022 subsections 1 through 6, lease, purchase, or sale of real estate, which is 610.021 sub 2, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting particular employees, which is 610.021 subsection 3, and preparation for negotiations with employee groups, 610.021 subsection 9.
I'll second it.
Tori,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes.
Peggy, yes. Lisa,
Yes.
Jean,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
And I just want to say one more thing. The Zoom meeting link was on the very bottom of an email that came out late today, just making sure everybody saw that.
Thank you.
Yep.
I did not, so I had to ask about it. Thank you.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Thanks. All right. See you next time. Thank you.